Yep, lightweight. So starting the day with a nice fin, you know, not a bad idea to keep a fin up there and some orbital lobes that can keep an eye on that. So starting the day, it's gonna be morning cardio. Gonna mix it up. Did some bike riding earlier, and then I'm gonna be doing some rowing. Watered the plants and fed them the nutrients and things like that. Trying to stay motivated on budget, a budget of getting roasted. All right, and then it's not easy when you got to think about what the body actually needs to have. And then that's how much information can be retained, and then that's like a landscape of, if you think about something that is a compressed image, for it to actually be rendered properly, then it has to be decompressed over the landscape. You know what I'm saying? So a human being's mind is kind of like that, where it's being binded, all right, and then it's very stressed, and then it actually needs to be able to breathe, be like the bones and the spine, and then it needs to be decompressed. Then it also needs to have, enough nutrients and nutrition and things like that. So I have the electrolyte powder. It is it's Arctic Wave, I believe. Let's see here. It is PK Hydrate, and this one is Arctic Wave Cherry. So being sparing with the electrolytes, and then I also have from my sister. She got a good deal on some MSM, so that's MSM, and then I added some collagen. I believe it's a fish collagen, three types of collagen from fish, and then added that to my protein shake. Um, so mixed that up. And I'm gonna be drinking this. Had some chickpeas and like ramen noodles, and mixing it up, trying to keep enough protein in there. With breadcrumbs, wheat, wheat germ. This is panko whole wheat cooking breadcrumbs. Chickpeas are really, really good, beneficial. So is beans and rice. Um, and then most of my diet is, tea and stevia. I don't like granulated sugar. I use it sometimes sparingly, but I don't like that for the body's chemistry. It seems like it's pretty, um, you know, it's not beneficial. You know what I'm saying? It's actually degenerative. If you think about something that's degenerative to the body, it's not a good thing. All right, and you're better off having like some fruit, some sugar from actual simple sugars and fruit, which is sucralose, um, and stuff like that. So, and then my favorite of all time still is the jasmine green tea because it's very, very compared to like regular green tea, it's not as dry. It's bearing more fruit. It's got more of the polyphenols and antioxidants, um, and it actually it curbs the appetite and the hunger. Because that's not what I'm trying to hang on to. I'm just trying to build healthy tissue and lean muscle, um, and actually, support the body well, and keeping the cardiovascular health well. All right, so hypertrophy is a good state, at least 15 minutes or something like that before, and some stretching before to get into the heavier stuff. But that is, not a bad idea with the collagen, some oils, and not living off just straight milk all the time because it's not that great. You know what I mean? A diet that's really, really high in lactose and dairy, it's not that great. I enjoyed the what was it? The vitamin code vegan formula of the protein powder, and I'm not a vegan um, at all. You know what I'm saying? I don't just restrict my diet. I eat what is available there. But the what's good in the Vitamin Co formula is it's already dehydrated sprouts. You know, it's already got fermentation. It's already going to dry it up. You know, it's going to actually soak all that, especially with the brown rice. It soaks the nutrition right back up. You know, and dries it up. And you know, that's a pretty good way to go about that. Especially when you need to be getting something in a meal replacement. You know, if you're replacing a meal with like fluids, you know, you either need to be regularly eating, you know, something, you know, eating something that's beneficial. And I wouldn't restrict anything, you know, I really would not. You know, and then when it's hot, we're not really going to be eating as much hot food, you know, so it does help, you know, and then just having cans of tuna or cans of chicken, you know, definitely does help. And then also stacking up the what is it? Cream of wheat, you know, wheat fair enough, wheat germ, you know, just something as simple as brewing this. That is fenugreek, hops, wheat berries, some hemp, moringa, and tulsi as well, and that's nice and cool to be drinking on later on in the day because it's like a beer. You know, it's a fermented brew like that, and then there's the sugars that are in the seed or the germ or the berry and stuff like that, and then it actually does react like that, and it can actually ferment to you know, create something that is beneficial, you know, in the form of fermentation. Because your body and your gastrointestinal system, it needs to work, it needs to be strong, and it needs to breathe. All right, and your gastrointestinal system is what you got. All right, and it you know, it's not really going to work if you're not on the ground. You know what I'm saying? There's not really much going on there with um, you know, the flight of existence. All right, if you're trying to be a flight risk and things like that, you know what I'm saying? It's not a good thing. And then that's actually having you know, the mentality of motor skills to be looking at the world in an orbital way. All right, meaning your orbital lobes, and then there are orbital poles. You know, and then that's actually protecting, you know, the chemistry from the top down. All right, and then that's the IT band, you know, and how you push off and deal with oxidative stress. All right, and then at the same time, it's making, you know, makes you a little bit more aerodynamic, you know, so you can get your arms through there, because that is kind of a pain in the ass having to pick the arms up and swing the arms down and then move around people, because I used to have to do that working in kitchens a lot and be graceful with things and then warn people of hot stuff, you know, and then letting people know that we're moving around behind them all the time. You know, that's just common courtesy and grace, you know. But I am a tricky human being that, you know, likes fish. All right. Uh, you know, I don't have anything against all of existence of fish. I just eat those ones because those ones were invasive. All right. You know what I'm saying? Then I have a little, we have a little pond under the water, under the ground there that has koi, you know, and that's not on the menu. You know what I'm saying? It's not invasive. It's not to be hunted. You know what I'm saying? There's a difference between that world of survival, and that's what you got to survive off, and then it's going to be an invasive pain in the fucking ass. Um, you know, and then there's the peaceful little creatures and things like that that we're not, you know, we're not part of that cycle. You know, and then if you look at what you're taking in from krill oil to this fish oil to that fish oil and stuff like that, um, you know, that's what you'll have a good understanding of what's going on there, from haddock, cod, saithe. You know, it is going on through there, and it's almost like it's the same species of fish, but then it swims higher. You know what I'm saying? So cod is swimming a little bit lower, and then haddock is basically cod, but it swims higher. You know what I'm saying? So it's just understanding, an ecosystem like that. And those things are really, really beneficial, especially for this, because this is what you got for the long term. You know what I'm saying? This could deal with some stress. You know what I'm saying? But this is physically what you have. Um, since the beginning of time. You know what I'm saying? And then since the beginning of time, poppy plants grew from the existence, and then the earth was sowing and stuff like that, and then it cracked open the backside of your skull and your dome there, and you have a carbon footprint and a marking, from that happening, from the sowing and the fishing of the earth, and then the world being harsh. You know what I'm saying? It gets really harsh with the temperatures rapidly changing. All right, and then we're going from 100-degree weather to negative 15 degrees. All right, so that's pretty goddamn crazy with a cycle. All right, and then you got to think about what the body is dealing with. Well, it experienced edema, and then it is actually trying to regulate that without the lungs filling up with fluid and then everything restricting you, and then you're choking on, your lungs would fill up with fluid, and then you would start choking and you wouldn't be able to breathe. You would be like a fish out of water. You know what I'm saying? Edema is kind of like that. So when the weather is that barometric and crazy, that's a gas giant. And then that's the neuroplasticity of the cerebral cortex back here. And then that's what we're going to do. We're going to expand, like the incisors and the bicuspid, we're going to expand that again. All right. And then open this all back up. And, that's just a regular part of my life, because it's survival. All right. And it may be somewhat luxurious. You might think that it's kind of luxurious, but it's not. You know what I'm saying? It's barely surviving in a hut, and having some stuff for 21 days, and then that's what I got to do. And I got to make nutrients and nutrition last for 21 days. So some days are better than others, and it is good to regulate your blood sugar and to understand like what your body actually needs and why it has, find the weaknesses and stuff like that, and find little tricks, um, to establish, your body to have and be healthy living organelle. All right, because that's what a plant needs, that's what you need, and some things are more beneficial to keep around than others, and et cetera, and so on. So this is part one, and then I'll make part two, um, with my exercise that's going to be going on for the day. So it's going to be rowing, um, the total gym, and then some of the Cybex. You want to call that a Cybex, with the pull downs, with the pull ups, the bent over rows, the arm, doing stuff with the arms, and then I also have the kettlebell to work with. I don't really care for always doing the kettlebell swings. You know what I'm saying? That is kind of beneficial, but at the same time, it's throwing the fibia and the tibia out. You know what I mean? So it's good. It's a good thing to do for hypertrophy, but sometimes I just don't feel like, throwing my fibia and tibia around faster than my mind can trace the pelvis. All right, because the pelvis is hinging. All right, so that's good to work. It's a good thing to do to strengthen your, um, your stronger muscles and stuff like that, which is coming from underneath you. Okay, and then your fibia and your tibia, and then your pelvis is, then it's moving faster than the trained eye and line of sight. All right, and then we don't want to put so much pressure on the fibia and the tibia that it is degenerative. You know what I'm saying? We don't want I don't want to just be damaging cartilage, and I want to actually break that down and build it back up. And that's what the collagen and MSM is for. And even I can't get glucosamine at now, but I would go eat a crab. All right, I would go grab my hunting knife. All right, I would go grab my goddamn hunting knife and stab a fucking crab. All right, and crack open its fucking um, its insides, and I would just start eating that. All right, or oysters and stuff like that. So that is how complex the palate is. You know what I'm saying? And on this side, on the side of FBI Bones, I'm already doing that. All right, I'm already hunting and gathering. I'm already seeing that. I'm already catching something. There isn't much that goes on in the world of the cerebral cortex of FBI Bones that is not perfect. You know what I'm saying? The world in all of existence will never be perfect. Okay, this stuff right here, it'll supposedly it would never be perfect, but it is. You know what I'm saying? But it is. It is part of our. It is part of development. So it starts with bicuspids and incisors, and lower life forms, which is like females. You know what I'm saying? They don't have canine uh, incisors and bicuspids. They have little teeth, and then I'm developing their teeth to grow, and you know what I'm saying? Because I physically pick them up and then I carry them, and then I am developing them from my rib cage. All right, and that never actually um, leaves my mind. You know what I'm saying? I never ever ever lose track of my focus and my goals. I just do get really stressed out, because that's extremely unnecessary. To make a human being live like this when we have all the resources available to people. FBI Bones can't